Fred Vincent was born on January 22, 1890 in Louisa, Kentucky. He was born into a middle-class family, and his mother's name was Virginia Ferguson, and his father's name was James Vincent. His father was a county jailer and died when Fred was only a baby. In 1908, Vincent graduated from the Kentucky Normal School. He continued on into Central College. He earned his legal degree in 1911, and afterwards he returned to Louisa, where he opened his own law practice at the age of 21, and then later became the city attorney. In 1917, Vincent enlisted in the army after the U.S. entered World War I. However, the war ended before he ever actually saw combat. After his return, he was elected the Commonwealth Attorney for the 32nd Judicial District of Kentucky. In 1924, he filled a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives as a Democrat. He won re-election for 2 more terms and was defeated in 1928. He went into private practice and married Julia Roberta Dixon in 1924 and had 2 sons. In 1930, he was re-elected into Congress and served another 3 terms in House. From 1938 to 1943, he served in the U.S. Court of Appeals in Washington, D.C. In 1943, he was named the Director of Economic Stabilization. President Truman appointed him Secretary of Treasury in 1945. 1 year later, he became Chief Justice of the Supreme Court in 1946. While he was Chief Justice, some of the major issues that were being considered were rights of communists, labor unions, and racial segregation. He was one of the few people to have occupied all 3 positions of the federal government. He died of a sudden heart attack in 1953, September 8th, in Washington, D.C.
Plessy versus Ferguson, 1896. In New Orleans, on June 7, 1892, Homer Plessy was arrested on an East Louisiana train for breaking the Separate Car Act of 1890. This act mandated that the races be separated in 2 different areas. Now, Homer Plessy was 7/8 white and was able to pass as a white man, but told the conductor he had black heritage, and as a result he was kicked out of the white section and later sent to the Criminal District Court for the parish of New Orleans, represented by the radical Republican Albion W. Tourget. They argued that the Separate Car Act of 1890 violated the 13th Amendment as well as the 14th Amendment, both of which were designed to help African Americans after the abolition of slavery. In addition, they claimed the separate but equal accommodations were not only racist, but unconstitutional and unfair. The judge, John Ferguson, ruled against Plessy, and in response, he went to the Supreme Court to get the Car Act banned. On May 18, 1896, in a 7-1 vote, the law was voted constitutional. Supreme Court Justice voiced the opinion of the majority vote and stated that racial inferiority was implied by the colored group, but not actually present in any forms of racism. Justice John Harlan, the only opposing vote, thought the laws were unconstitutional and stated that the Constitution is colorblind. This Supreme Court case set the precedent for racial segregation in other states legally up until 1954.